Yesterday, I had to get gas for my car when I was on the way down to the office. And when I pulled up to the pump and I opened the door to my gas tank, I noticed that the tether had broken off the gas cap. And for a second, I thought to myself, oh, that sucks. That's really annoying. As I set the cap on top of the trunk of the car while I filled up the tank. And then I thought a little bit more. I said, no, it's an 8.5-year-old car, right? This kind of wear and tear just kind of comes with the territory. Personally, my family, I was raised to buy cars rather than lease them and just drive them into the ground, basically, right? So I use them for years and years, and eventually at some point, based on mileage and gradually accumulating maintenance and repair costs, it kind of comes to the time to donate the car to charity and just buy a new car again. Recent statistics show that I'm probably in the minority with this approach, as Americans tend to keep new cars for only about 6 years on average, because people, not surprisingly, want the latest features in technology in addition to the new vehicle itself. It shouldn't surprise us when we think about the frequency with which people tend to replace smartphones, computers, and other tech. Just like the car example, while they function effectively and they get you where you want to go, right, so to speak, people often possess a deep desire for novelty. In addition to technology, we may move on quickly from friendships, from jobs, from organizational involvement, looking for change or a fresh start. Of course, sometimes this can be a good thing, but our desire for constant innovation and newness also has the potential to damage our trust in stability or permanence of relationships in any form, to tempt us to roam unmoored through life, untethered like the gas cap on my Volvo. In this week's Parshat in Tavo, the Torah interpreted by our medieval rabbinic ancestors suggests a different approach that may offer us a better chance of remaining grounded. As Sadie mentioned in her Dvar Torah earlier this AM, when the Israelites are settled in the land, they're expected to bring gifts of their first fruits as an offering to God in gratitude for their good fortune. The Torah instructs them to tell the officiating priest at the outset, Higati hayom ladonai Elohecha, I acknowledge this day, today, before God. And near the end of the ceremony to say, Ve'ata, and now, as a result, God, of what you've done for me, here are these first fruits as a gift. Later on in the Parsha, the word hayom again appears, the word this day, several additional times, including God commanding us this day to observe the laws and rules, the mitzvot, and the Israelites responding by affirming this day that God is their God. And then we find Hayom again several more times in the next chapter too. The rabbinic commentaries point out the strangeness of the wording here, as the commands weren't actually initially given on that day in question, just before the Israelites are getting ready to enter the land of Canaan. But in fact, they were given 40 years before, right after the Israelites got out of Egypt. So what is the Torah telling us with this constant repetition of Hayom, this day, in our Parsha? The famous medieval French commentator Rashi piggybacks on other similar comments in saying that the message here is that every day, the mitzvot, our traditions and laws, should seem new to us, as though on that very day we were commanded to fulfill them. Specific to Judaism and Jewish practices, the implication is that while the mitzvot, instructions, and teachings themselves may come for 2,000 or more years ago, there is a way and even an imperative to make them fresh with each new encounter. We can either treat them as a stroll down the memory lane of our people, antiquities to be looked at from a distance or with some curiosity, or as daily, weekly, or periodic pathways to new and meaningful encounters with Jewish community and with God. And in a more general sense, in terms of the way we interact with the world, the instruction to make every day seem new and fresh, like what it would be like to see the sunset each day, as though it were for the first time, is also a helpful and healthy reminder that things don't always have to be brand new to feel new, fresh, and reinvigorating. So instead of an obsession about changing our routine itself, about constantly trying something new and different, we can work on our capacity to be surprised, delighted, and enriched by things we've already experienced before and may even be experiencing every day. Consider even the example of a bat mitzvah service. Seems like a good example, considering we're in the middle of Sadie's bat mitzvah right now. For many people who are here in person or watching us from home, they've either been to or witnessed dozens, maybe even hundreds of such celebrations over the years, perhaps with their own family and friend circles, or at the very least within their Jewish community. And yet today, just like at each other ceremony we may have experienced in the past, something touches our heart, provides an emotional spark, and brings us pride and joy when we see Sadie read from the Torah and take her place in this recurring story of the Jewish people and its traditions. It's not because the ceremony itself is any different this time around. It's not a new ceremony, right? We know what a bar bat mitzvah looks like. But it's because we've all opened our hearts to the power of this beautiful coming-of-age moment for Sadie, surrounded by her loving family and community. The ritual doesn't have to be new for the moment to feel new, different, and unique, and thus special. As Rabbi Brad Artson, Dean of the Ziegler School of Rabbinical Studies in LA, once commented, the key to a spiritual connection with the universe is to do the hard work necessary to remain open to the moment, to every moment. If we approach prayer the way we do a beach, if we perceive the mitzvot as we do a moment in a loved one's life, then we don't need constant innovation and novelty. Indeed, the very predictability of the occasion, the fact that we witness a drama that recurs again, over and over again, provides the loom on which we can weave the woof of our loftiest aspirations and the warp of our fondest hopes. Novelty has as much to do with our approach to our encounters as it does with external change. We don't need to wander from one experience to another in life, always seeking an experience or relationship that is in fact new. Staying the course in our relationships and actions may seem passé, but can also yield new fruit, fulfillment, meaning, and yes, growth, with even subtle attitudinal shifts. God willing, I'll stick with my 8.5-year-old Volvo until it gives out on me, and try to appreciate as much as I can its loyal service and my schlepping all over. I'll think back to when I first got it and loved driving on the highway with the sunroof open and the windows down, and try to enjoy that same feeling once again the next time I'm on the highway with the roof open and the windows down. As Rashi said, and as we also sing at the end of the Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur morning services, Hayom, let this day seem new, just like the first day. The power for renewal today, this year, and always lies within each of us. Shabbat Shalom and Shana Tova to all. A good, sweet new year ahead.